the 1990s. A couple walks across the street talking about their day-to-day lives. Just an average day on their agenda, going through the motions. Until they see a 6'6" figure dressed in all black standing beneath a traffic light. The man says, "What's that woman doing?" His fiancée responds, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only one who saw the thing." When the figure moved, it moved in stop-motion frames. It wasn't walking smoothly like the couple crossing the street. They're here, but suddenly they're not, and in some other place on the street. Almost like a time-lapse photo, but moving horizontally. There are stories in this town of entities coming and performing experiments and taking human samples of DNA. They can't move while it's happening, but they know they can feel the entities around them. It's almost like a vibration that goes through your body, and all you can do is look around knowing that these entities are there with you. Spotting of flying objects in the sky litter this town's history. The people can't explain what they are. They know it's not a plane. They know it's not a bird. Our sun doesn't even show its reflection on the surface of these sleek objects. It begs the question, is this even real? Is this even really happening? Speeding and zipping through the sky. Some people would call these entities aliens, unidentified flying objects, abductions. Many associate those types of stories with the town of Roswell, New Mexico, Area 51, aliens being acknowledged that they're existing in a world that we live in. But I'm here to tell you that none of these stories come from Roswell, New Mexico. They come from the small town of Pine Bush, New York in Orange County, my hometown. Growing up in this town, my sisters and I always laughed at the encounters that locals had with these entities or these aliens. There's a barber shop that sat on Main Street that had a sign in the window showing a man standing next to a little green man, much like the movie Men in Black and many other films referring to aliens talk about. A giant oversized head with big black eyes, a tiny slit for a mouth. And this barber swore that he was abducted, swore that he had several encounters with aliens. And me and my siblings laughed. And we never really took that seriously. This whole phenomena surrounding Pine Bush started roughly in the mid-1980s, but sightings have been spotted since the 1960s in this town. Multiple researchers came to study the area and to get a better understanding of what Pine Bush is like. It's in the base of the Shandong Mountains, where mostly back when I grew up there were farmlands. There was the high school. It was a very small town, you know. Everybody knew everybody, and several shops had been there for decades. Very, very small town. Just those small town vibes that you hear about that you don't really believe actually exist aside from in movies. Pine Bush today hosts the UFO parade, embracing this weirdness to the town that I and my siblings never could take seriously. Now, I will say, I was very young when this particular story happened, so take that with a grain of salt. But one night, my sisters and I were staying up past our bedtime, which we normally did growing up, when the power went out at our house. The strange thing was that it wasn't even storming outside. The power just completely cut off. And me and my siblings played it off and said, oh, it's an alien abduction. We watched a lot of the X-Files growing up, thinking that aliens actually did exist in that moment when we were watching Fox Mulder and Agent Scully investigate strange disappearances in their town. But something happened that night that I can't explain. And it were these bright white lights in the sky when I looked out our front windows. I never said anything to my siblings because I knew they wouldn't believe me. I was young. They used to tell me that dolls could be possessed and ghosts exist, and I always believed them. They also told me that they could walk through walls, and Looking back on that, obviously, I'm a little bit older now. I don't believe them. But back then, I truly believed everything they said as truth. So when I saw these lights, I didn't know what they were. Three bright, glowing lights shimmering through the trees at the edge of our property. And I stared at them, and I knew something wasn't quite right about them. And the power came back on, and when I looked out the window, the lights were gone in an instant. Maybe it was a UFO. Maybe it was my imagination as a child. I don't know. And I never will know. Pine Bush now has gotten very, very much more developed since I lived there. I lived across from two cornfields my whole life. The mountains border along the roads surrounding me. But I still think about that night. And I wonder if I'm missing time from seeing those lights. Like some of these other instances in my hometown where people saw unexplainable things and entities. Maybe that was my encounter with these strange, unidentified objects in the sky. What do you think? Do you all believe in UFOs? Do you believe that aliens are observing us from afar? I'm not quite sure that I don't believe. I'm not quite sure that I don't believe aliens exist. Do I understand the concept that there may be a planet out there, much like planet Earth, that has living organisms and has a society and has structure and has evolution? Yeah, absolutely. Just based on a scientific standpoint with the Big Bang Theory about how the universe was created, I've always believed that there was intelligent life out there existing parallel to our own existence here on Earth. Recently, the government has released information saying that aliens do exist, and we kind of just glazed over that. Last year in July, the government basically confirmed that they had recovered non-biological human remains from crash sites of UFOs, and they've kind of expanded this broader definition of what a UFO is, maybe what you and I believe a UFO is. They also are now equating it to the water. So who knows? Earth has been around for billions of years. We don't know who was here first. We don't know if maybe we weren't the first life beings to start walking around and talking and developing society the way it is today. I always think back to when my sisters and I would sit down in front of the television watching the X-Files, and I was terrified. I was terrified of the idea of aliens coming, abducting you, performing experiments on you. I was a kid. I was roughly 6, 7 years old when I was watching the X-Files, and during Halloween, when we went into town to go trick-or-treating, there is a funeral home that does a haunted house, and they had an alien theme one year, and it scared the absolute crap out of me at the age that I was. But you can't help but wonder, when you think back to these unexplained phenomena that you may go through, is this real? Was this real? I think a huge part of me believes that I did see something unexplainable in the sky that night so many years ago. And it brings me back to Fox Mulder's saying that was plastered on his wall in a poster. I want to believe the truth is out there. Next time on Campfire Chronicles, we're going to be taking a look at some local San Antonio stories that I've heard from people who have been there their whole lives, as well as just historical aspects. And San Antonio has quite a bit of different experiences as well out there. Until next time, my friends, I can't wait to see you back here at the campfire for Campfire Chronicles Stories After Dark.